right. We're going to be talking to Pailiaq today. It is raining over here. Hopefully it's not too loud in the background. Hold on. I need to get my chat in view. Anyways, it is 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and give him a call. See if he's ready. And let's go. Oh my goodness, why does this always happen? This is weird. Why is it doing that? It's not what I want. Well, see, I guess we don't need this stuff. What's up, Delta? How you doing?
Hello.
Yo, dude. What's up? Can you hear me?
Howdy. Yeah, I can hear you.
Nice. Give me just a second. We are live, and we got you
Very cool.
on the screen.
Oh, look at me go.
How you
Big
doing?
on screen. On the Zen Pill podcast.
Podcast.
I've really made it, yeah.
It's raining over here, so it's gonna be extra chill.
Oh, nice. I am extremely sleep deprived, so this will be an extra fun conversation. Expect me to stumble over words and forget, I don't know, very standard things.
So when you're sleep deprived, what happens? Do you start to hallucinate, or
I mean, if you push it to like
fall
really
asleep?
extreme limits, which I've done a few times in my youth, but no, I just get stupider pretty much. I'm just like me, but like dumb. Yeah, that's how I would say.
Just get a little loopy?
Yeah, just a wee bit.
If I don't get enough sleep when I go teach, I literally start passing out while I'm giving lessons.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I've been teaching kids calculus lately, and if I do it for like if I have like 3 or 4 sessions in a day, my brain's just cooked at the end, and I'm just like not I don't know, I'm just speaking numbers and math, but none of it actually makes any sense. But they believe that I have authority and confidence and know what I'm talking about, even though I no longer do. So they just look really scared. Yeah.
Teaching kids calculus, what are these, like 7-year-olds or college kids?
No, they're like 15 to 20s, so just like high school and college students and stuff like that.
I'll have to get you to teach me calculus, because my calculus teacher didn't teach me anything.
You don't need to use any of it. Sometimes when doing sound design, honestly, like calculus fundamentals are kind of cool. But that's just like knowing what a derivative is in an integral. You don't actually have to like do math. You know, you just have to like know what the rate of change is and how that can correspond to like how a basic wave shape would sound if you were phase modulating it versus frequency modulating it, because then the derivative or the rate of change is the relationship between phase and frequency. And so some stuff like that can become useful, but you just need like a conceptual understanding. You don't have to solve integrals and stuff like that, really.
So it does help you with the big picture, the calculus.
Yeah, a little bit. I think so. And like it gets you thinking Like I feel like when you take a physics class and you do, you're doing a lot of like kinematics equations and all that stuff. Like you could just use a calculator, at the end of the day, you can have a program do all of it for you. But I think doing all the math manually, it helps you like build an intuition for like why things do the things that they're doing. So
Sure.
yeah.
Even if you're not.
Whoa, what a thumbnail you made. I just saw it. So cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Your
my
thumbnail game has been on point the past couple months, yeah. It's been up there.
that's my best one yet.
Yeah. I don't know, microtonal open jam with the jam, I
Oh
think.
yeah, maybe that
That
one's
one
better actually.
that one's also pretty good. Yeah.
This is my second best one.
Okay, I'll take it. We'll take it. Yeah.
Nice. Well, hey man, thanks for coming in today, dude. I'm kind of curious, like, when, like, when did you start making music, man? And did you start just producing music, or did you start with an
Yeah,
instrument,
so
or?
so when I was like 18, yeah, about 18 years old, I went to a rave and I was like, electronic music is fucking dope. And really wanted to make dubstep. So like after like 6 months of going to raves and stuff, I like wanted to figure out how the people on the stage did the thing. I realized that it was like an attainable thing. You don't need to actually know music theory or be a trained musician and have been playing piano your whole entire life. So you can just pirate Ableton, watch a couple tutorials, and start making beats and stuff, and just see where it goes. And it turned out that I really, really liked it. So I kept doing that for a while and made like shitty dubstep and trap music and like EDM, stuff where like the snares just keep building and it gets super crazy, and then there's a drop, and then it's. I mean, I still do that actually. Now that I'm shitting on that kind of music, but yeah, I just did that for a while, and then eventually just like really started to enjoy sound design, I suppose, and kind of came up with a few of my own like pathways and techniques and stuff, and really like carved that out, and then eventually made YouTube tutorials describing how I did my stuff, and then I quote unquote blew up, at least for like the relative scene I'm in, just doing that. But I don't know if that fully answered your question. I kind of, again, I'm sleep deprived. I'm just rambling.
You started going to raves, and you just wanted to
Yep.
learn how to make the stuff you were hearing in the raves.
Yeah, basically. So
Yeah.
I started out. I didn't know any music theory when I started out. I've never played an instrument. I played guitar for like a couple months before. I had no idea, but with the DAW, you just drag samples in space, and so it
What
makes.
got you to go to a rave though? I imagine you were listening to that style of music already, or did like a friend
Nope,
say, "Hey,
nope.
come to this
A friend
party?" And
a friend dragged me. He was like, "Let's go to a rave. It should be lit," as we were saying back in 2018 or so, 2017. And then, yeah, I really, really liked it. I liked the experience. I liked the people. I liked the culture and the scene. And I discovered I liked electronic music, and then started to listen to it. So like, I listened to like indie bands like Modest Mouse and stuff before that, and
yeah,
never really figured out that I liked electronic stuff until I had like a experience in a live setting, and then did that a bunch, and then decided I wanted to start making it, and then fast forward like 8 years, and now I'm here.
nice. And now you perform. Do you play at raves, or do you just do clubs, or
Yeah, yeah. I guess
I don't know
I
how
don't
that
know if rave
works.
is the right. No, they're all kind of the same thing, but yeah, I perform. My biggest show was actually last month, a little like what 20, 25 days ago or something. I got flown out to Denver and got to play my first out of state show, which was very cool because typically I just play shows that are like within like an hour or 2 hours radius of where I live in California. So um
Oh, it's
really
awesome.
cool
They
experience.
flew you
Yeah.
out there.
By flew me out, I mean they gave me a small amount of money that basically just covered the plane ticket and living in the city for like 2 days to do the show. So I got to travel to Denver and party and play music for free, but I didn't,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was really cool. So hopefully more of that is to come because it was a cool experience, and I want to do more of that for sure.
Yeah, sure you will.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, well, And also, of course, everyone wants to know, like, what led you to microtonality? Like, what led you to start incorporating that with your music, and what got you interested in
So
that?
my first exposure to microtonal stuff, I don't remember exactly when, but I heard Savish's Gleam at some point, and I was like, it sounds weird. It's a cool gimmick, but I was just like thrown off by it and didn't quite get it because it was like my first exposure to it. And then didn't really like listen back or check back on it for many years. And then in the meantime, I got really into psychedelic music. So Tipper is my greatest inspiration. He basically cultivated and birthed like multiple subgenres of music. There's a whole music scene dedicated to people basically just biting him. I'm one of him, one of the producers that just kind of emulate or at least are greatly inspired by his music. And he pushes sound design and this genre. Let's just say, like psychedelic bass music, electronic music. The sound design is meant to push boundaries. It's explorative. You're trying to find and create new sounds that have never existed before because by doing that you can create new emotions and colors and feelings that have never been felt before, and that's like psychedelic. That's like kind of how I define it a little bit. So naturally, I think once you realize, okay, I want to make new sounds that no one's heard before and present new feelings. Chords are sounds. Temperament, notes, they're sounds. They're just, you add notes together additively and build a new thing. So naturally, microtonality is the next step to go. So if all my music is made out of like crazy fart sounds and stuff and squelchy weird things that you never normally hear, then like why not start introducing some like out of tune notes and seeing what happens there,
Yeah, that
So
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
And but you don't remember like a specific. So you were kind of more. I think it sounds kind of like you sort of embraced the concept of it. Maybe you heard some
Yeah.
Savage or.
Yeah, okay, I would say so. Eventually, I kept revisiting it because I wanted to understand it a little bit more. And I saw like I was exposed to some stuff by like Zero Rose, and um, a couple other like microtonal artists. And actually, I learned to respect it, but it felt like this thing that was just so far out of my grasp. I didn't even know normal music theory. I couldn't even play normal instruments. Um, but eventually, I went on a Sevish binge and listened to nothing but Sevish for like a month and realized that he's like one of the greatest producers that I've like ever listened to. Honestly, he's fucking insanely cracked.
Nice.
Um, and like even beyond the like microtuning stuff, like yeah, no, he's so cool. He's
Yeah.
massive inspiration for sure. Um, Realized that like I wanted to learn how to do that, and I guess at some point something clicked in me where I decided I wanted to learn how to do microtonal theory as well as just become a more rounded musician. So I started learning to play piano. I started learning normal music theory at the same time that I started hanging out in the Zen Harmonic Alliance Discord, getting in arguments with people over naming commas, all that stuff that you're supposed to do. And just like by osmosis, and honestly, watching your live stream for the past like it's been almost like 2 years now. Um,
Holy
I've
moly.
learned so much just by like chatting with you and other people in the community and getting a better grasp on like regular temperament theory and what concepts I do and don't care about.
The immersion system, I guess, or
Yeah,
style or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. You get inspired by like I'll be in your live stream and it'll inspire me to explore new tuning, and then I'll make something and inspire other people. And so just being immersed in a community I think is the best way to improve at the thing, because by being immersed in a community you'll naturally do things that lead you to improve at the thing.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. That's more or less how I learned the ropes, I guess. Just joining like the groups and also listening to that Now and Zen podcast.
Yeah.
Just hearing people talk about it a lot. But now,
Yeah.
but now that you've learned stuff, you're making an effort to introduce microtonality to a larger audience. I feel like because you have like
Yeah.
you have like a microtonal tutorial video, like a intro video.
Yeah, so I've been working on for way too long because I'm procrastinating like crazy, but I'm working on more videos in a series. Um, but yeah, I feel like microtonality and Zen harmonic music and all this is like very inaccessible. Obviously, that's like the greatest complaint that we all have. And so trying to create at least like create a structured quote unquote course or like way of thinking or presentation of concepts that were like my greatest aha moments, you know? Because like when you jump in at first, it just sounds like they're speaking gibberish, and so you really have to like figure out what's the right pathway of things to learn. And um, I think it's easier for people. It can be way easier, and if it's made easier to learn, then more people will learn it, and then there'll be more cool music out there. More people will be exposed to it. Will break everyone's ears, and then make everyone enjoy listening to out of tune notes, and then we'll flourish. You know, so
Yeah.
it's the dream.
Have you done much like Zen pilling? Like, have you converted many people to the microtonal side?
I've tried for sure, because I'm friends with some like insanely talented, ridiculously talented producers, and I would say that like I've that they're kind of hesitant about the microtonal thing. They're like, I don't know, it sounds kind of out of tune, but every once in a while, like I'll make a song or show them a song, and they're like, this is really good. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's microtonal, so suck it. And then they'll be like kind of interested, but I think a lot of them are still daunted by the it feels difficult to learn. It seems like an insurmountable mountain, or they just don't care enough to put in the effort to do it. But I think it's something that like you convert people over time, you know. So like my first exposure to Sevish's music, I was like, this is a cool gimmick, but like that's sounds kind of weird and also looks incredibly complicated. But then I was exposed to it over and over again over the course of a couple years, and then realized that like, okay, I do really want to learn this. And so I think I just have to keep harassing all my friends with tuning theory bullshit until they convert. It might take a couple years, but I have faith.
I've given up on all my friends, but
Yeah, I kind of have also given up. I have to, when I'm at a function and people are talking music, I have to like I have to control myself a little bit. Yeah.
sometimes though, like I encounter people who are talking about microtones, like they're doing it, but usually it's like quarter tones, or
Yeah.
you know,
I've
which is
ran into a
nice.
couple other microtonal interested musicians before, and usually they're like interested in JI. But the stuff I do is usually I haven't ran into someone who wants to make music in 23 tonical temperament before, because like I'm purposefully kind of seeking out shitty tunings because I think it's fun and they sound cool.
Yeah.
So maybe that's kind of a unique lens, but that's what's cool about microtonal music or whatever. It's such a large umbrella and it encompasses so many different like styles and ways of learning about it and ways of thinking about it. So yeah.
This is true. Like even if you just think about tuning, like there's so many different categories of tunings. Like you mentioned a few of them, like JI, and I mentioned quarter tones, and then you mentioned 23. Do you want to talk at all about like your preference for what some people call weird tunings, or basically like tunings with bad fifths, basically?
Yeah, I think, and I feel like the reason why I'm interested in this is like as I stated in as like my thesis reason for wanting to learn all this to begin with is that I want to make weird sounds that no one's really heard before. And so when people are like chasing tunings that have like more accurate thirds and fifths and stuff, that is not necessarily novel. It's like a cleaning up, a refining of a thing that we already know and are familiar with in some sense. Um, but the weird tunings are like inherently more psychedelic. You know, you beat someone over the head with something like really out of tune, it's gonna leave an impact in an interesting way because most people avoid that thing. And then once your ear has learned to accept those intervals, then like I don't know, it opens a whole range of possibilities because there's so many bad notes out there. There's not that many good notes, but there's a lot of bad ones. You know, bad as a comparative term. So
I guess that's
yeah, no,
true,
it's just
right?
trippy.
Like it's a larger bucket. But
Yeah.
even then there's structural properties to like 23 equal, like you have like that are interesting. Like you have an anti-diatonic scale,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I mean stuff like that where everything kind of gets flipped on its head.
Yeah, and that
Um,
stuff is fascinating. That's usually my go-to. I'm trying to convince someone that the shit is cool. I'm like, there's an anti-diatonic scale, and instead of a diminished chord, you have an augmented chord, and everything's inverted. And they're like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. And it sounds really bad because the fifth is really flat. And they're like, oh. But I love it, and I think you could justify it with the right like orchestration and stuff. I think that's another thing. This is like a slight pivot that a lot of people neglect is, I guess, sound design and orchestration in terms of like justifying or making certain tunings work. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like 23 Edo would not work if you were using, I don't know, like piano. I mean, it could work. It would work. It would just have a different vibe than if you're using like timbres that are more simple and sine wavy and less like rich and stuff like that. So it's learning microtonal stuff has led me to also improve in my composition because it forces me to think about timbre in completely new ways I've never thought of before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how, as a producer, like even just now, you're saying like your sound design, you're thinking about sound design that's improving your composition. I think that's interesting because, like, obviously, if you're a producer and you're doing sound design, it is related to composition. But for years, I just played piano and I wrote a ton of music on piano, and basically, your sound is whatever the piano you're playing sounds like, more or
Yeah, that's
less.
true.
So there's like
One way
this.
to also No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying like it's almost like once you get into like sound design and stuff, that dimension sort of unlocks for you. But I think that connection isn't as obvious to everyone. Like not every instrumentalist sees that, or not everyone who composes on an instrument like I did for
Yeah.
so long. Yeah.
Yeah, I think something that's kind of clicked in my brain somewhat recently is that, like if you play notes an octave up on a piano, that's a sound design choice. You're not playing a different note. You're just playing something that has even harmonics of a lower note. And, when you're stacking, if you're playing octaves at the same time, then you're just changing the sound design of the note that you're playing, but you're just changing and modifying the timbre and working with it in different ways. And kind of approaching, I guess, like looking at everything from like a JI lens in terms of all reconstructing everything as a harmonic series, then it and everything kind of like warps and flips in a way. Now, I don't think it is very um like conducive to playing physical instruments because I feel like you're not really gonna intuit or think about playing the piano as, oh, I'm building the harmonic series of some lower chord. You're more so like, I'm just playing these patterns and these scales and these shapes that I've built into muscle memory,
Yeah.
which feels very different. But from like a intentional compositional perspective of like, I'm working in a DAW, I have these chord progressions playing this triangle wave, I can stack it with this other thing playing a sine wave at this interval related to it, and then it's like a more analytical perspective, I think, where it lends a little bit more to this like thinking in terms of temperaments and stuff. Though again, I'm
Interesting.
more of an electronic producer than I am a physical instrumentalist, so that would make sense why I think that way.
I
Yeah.
I think a big difference, like when I started getting into sound design, um, and really for me, it just started with just like mixing stuff. I wanted to record my music. I was learning about mixing audio, but like when you're on that side of things, it feels like the science of music is always there in front of you. Like
Mhm.
there's like you're like always right next door to it, and there is kind of this connection. I feel like it's not like the same really, but I feel like in microtonal spaces there's a lot of like very like technically minded people, like math minded people who they engage with music in a very mathematical kind of dry analytical way, for better or for
Yeah.
worse. And that same perspective is just kind of in the more like the audio side of things and the sound design side of things. So there's just so many connections there where I find that learning about the harmonics, like you learn about the harmonic series in both. Like if you learn about tuning or if you learn about sound design. Yeah, I mean, even if
Yeah.
you just learn about FM synthesis, like you learn about the harmonic series. So,
Yeah, I would say FM synthesis in particular is like one of the largest improvements that I've had directly as a result of learning like temperament theory. And it's like really understanding how all of that works and building like an intuition for it, because normally it feels like black magic. You just twist one knob and then crazy sound comes out that you can't predict, but you really can predict it if you actually know what's going on and you also spend enough time doing it. Um, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm very sleep deprived. I forgot everything else I was about to say, but
it's all good, man. Um, right on. Well, hey, yeah, FM synthesis is very cool. You do a lot with it. You do a lot of cool stuff with it. You get a lot of like rubbery, like sounds.
yeah,
And
it's like my go-to in Ableton, just because operator is a stock instrument in Ableton, and it's a really powerful and very fast FM synth. So like I prioritize workflow most of the time. I don't think operator sounds the best, but I can make sounds in it that do the thing I want them to do really, really quickly. And so getting ideas out as fast as possible and like changing the timbre and stacking, layering multiple different synths that are playing different timbres and doing the right thing um, is very useful. And so learning FM synthesis, because you can create really crazy sound just by twisting like 3 knobs. So it lends well to that purpose, I found. Another reason why I got really good at FM is because operator, back when I first got into microtonal stuff, was one of the few synths that were stock with Ableton that worked with microtuning. And so I was forced to not use any of the synths that I had and was forced to use this quote unquote shitty stock device, and then learned you could get pretty good at it. So that's another benefit I think of microtonal stuff, because it forces you to use certain things and work in certain ways.
yes,
so like in one hand, the fact that like 37 Edo, you don't even have 3 full octaves to work with for every note, that can be really frustrating in some keys. But it also changes the way that you compose compositionally. It makes you layer different instruments and change the octave tuning, which will lead you to making different creative decisions. And so you won't be able to rely on your normal muscle memory for just making a thing. You have to engage with it in a little bit of a different way, which will teach you more about the thing. Yeah. That's one reason actually why I like shitty tuning so much. Because it forces you, it's like solving a puzzle a little bit. It's like, how do I make this sound good if this tuning sounds so off and strange to, when it's presented in most ways? And so you have to really engage with it and think, navigate it, learning timbre, like I said before, and like what notes you present in what ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it can be really satisfying when you like engage with a difficult tuning and come up with something that you actually enjoy.
I think so. And I think I think it's one of the, like, they have the most sounds that are alien to anything we're familiar with. So I feel like when you do accomplish something that sounds like, I don't know, just really pleasing and musically useful and whatnot, it'll like hit harder and more uniquely for, I don't know, the listener. At least it does for me, and I like to imagine that it hits harder for, the listener, because like if you find a new song and it has a really weird and peculiar and out there tuning, that's the only place you're going to be able to get that vibe and that sound and that song, because it doesn't exist elsewhere, because it's a new, novel, psychedelic thing. So it scratches an itch. That's why I got like addicted to listening to Sevish alone for like a month, because his stuff is like entirely unique. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, microtones scratch a particular itch.
Yeah. Is the audio coming through all right? Because I'm seeing at least the video looks to be a little stuttery at the moment. Looks fine.
I don't know if anyone notices anything about the audio. Just let me know. Try to fix it.
Okay.
No one has complained so far. And yeah,
Okay,
if
okay.
anybody watching has any questions for Pailiaq or whatever, um,
No, just a
just let me
video.
know.
Yeah,
The video
you
is
don't need to
stuttering.
see my face.
I see.
Yeah,
Twitch is
that's all
smoother.
right.
Okay. Thank you, Delta.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the chat in a minute.
Um, did you want to talk about any of your so you made a few microtonal apps. They're
Yes.
like tools for microtonal
Yeah.
musicians. Maybe I can show off,
Yeah,
unless
I mean, I
or if you
could.
want to show any of them off. I don't know if you want to do screen share or
Yeah, I can screen share and show a couple things. So I've been working on one good way, really good way I found to like understand temperament theory and tuning stuff was by programming temperament theory stuff. So like when I first got into this, I made a Python script that would calculate MOS scales in every Edo. And to do that, I have to really understand how MOS scales work and how the generators work and how to define them and what criteria and how to filter out ones I don't want. And so like that's the best way to learn something, right? The best way to learn anything is to actually engage with it. So, you know, if you just read, oh, this thing is called this, it's you're gonna forget it. But if you engage with it and make a song in a scale called Pajara or whatever, I now have an association. I have a memory of me doing a thing and really engaging with this concept, and then I'm going to remember that scale for the rest of my life, right? Um, and so I find like yeah, programming stuff to be super useful. But yeah, I can here. I'll share my screen. I'll just like talk about a few of the things. Some of them,
sure.
yeah, they're pretty cool. So on this GitHub link right now, I am working on a website, and when the website's done, then I'll just make this redirect to the actual website. But I'm gonna have all these apps, and it's gonna look a lot more pretty and stuff. But so I guess we could talk about functional harmony. So I read
Yeah.
this really cool post on someone was trying to figure out functional harmony in 31 notes per octave, and they basically came up with a systemized way of assigning a like sub function or mini function to every individual note in a tuning. So if you take 12 Edo, you can assign a function such that like if it contains a leading tone and it contains a second or something, then you can end up calling that a dominant chord. Something like that. I don't remember the exact rules, but basically, if a note contains certain set things, you assign it a different function, right? And so the result is you can then map all of the. You can assign a function for every single possible chord. So in 12 Edo, you have a function defining the tonic chord, which is basically like the root is of the chord and it has a fifth. So, right? So these are your two possible tonic chords. And then your dominant function is defined here, which that contains and sounds like, you know, it's a 151.
Yeah.
And then you can also, other functions are assigned, such as the leading tone, the diminished chord, is also a dominant chord, as are the augmented chords, which through narrowly defining each of these like rules, the rule sets, I basically created like building blocks such that they match how most people think about the functional harmony for every chord. Like every one of these chords is correct by like usual standard models, with the exception of and you pointed this out, the minor 7 chord is not that one's less commonly referred to as a dominant chord. It still is in some songs and in some contexts, but it it still kind of works. And so basically, you created a system with building blocks that describes functional harmony for all the chords in 12 Edo. Make sure that it matches absolutely, and then once you do that, then you can just plug different tunings into it. So if we look at 22, we now have a shit ton of chords, right? So we have your major chord, and then these are all possible dominant chords
Yeah, all the red
that will voice lead
ones
in
are
similar
dominant.
ways.
Yeah.
And so they all have that voice leading pattern of like the leading tone goes up to the root. there's a note that exists somewhere in the like second space or something that goes to the major third. I can't remember exactly how it works, but
Yeah.
it's about voice leading basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can then, once this is done, you can then like find a chord progression you really like. And then it'll be set out in MIDI right here. And then you can download the MIDI and then just chuck it into your DAW, and it'll already be set to whatever tuning that it's in. So it's like a theory exploring tool. It's a compositional tool.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I played with this when you first put this out, and I was honestly frustrated with how well it worked because it's so rule based. But yeah, it really does work. Like if you click a red button and then click the green button, go from the dominant to the tonic, it like almost always is like a pleasant resolution. Like it's got that sort of dominant to tonic feeling. And in 12 equal, the chords pretty much all line up. And then in the other tunings, you're like, well, which ones is it going to be? And you don't always have a sense for like what chords are going to be the dominant chords. So it's really cool to have these like mapped out here, where some of these are like seem kind of obvious because they're like, oh yeah, this is sort of next door to the normal dominant chord in this tuning, but some of them seem more out of left field, so it's really kind of cool. And as you get into more complex tunings, well, I guess there's probably a sweet spot. It could probably get a little too complex where it breaks down, but 22 is probably like a good region where like works pretty well.
Point, just for funsies, I put 53 Ito in here, which is pretty stupid. It's too many chords. But if we let me sort this by abbreviation and then zoom out, you start to see patterns, right? Oh god, it's so many fucking notes. So there's certain patterns, and basically this just comes from, I can't even scroll. It's so laggy. This is a nightmare.
You gotta try some.
The pattern is,
we gotta hear some of these.
The chords are set up so that every chunk is like assigned a different fifth. So like this is like your major, that's your minor or whatever, and then sub minor and blah blah blah. But so the thirds are varying, but the fifth is fixed. And then over here, this is all those same chords but with a down fifth, and this is a double down, and so on until it's like super diminished. And so that's why you have this repeating kind of like upwards pattern, right? Because it's based on voice leading. This whole thing is just based around voice leading. Harmony, functional harmony, it all just comes from voice leading. And so I don't know why these say tonic. That's a bug, and I just haven't bothered to fix it. No, I guess I don't know. I can't remember. But regardless, the overall point stands. So there's certain. This is like staring at this is like giving me like optical illusion feelings. It like hurts my brain a little bit. But yeah, there's basically the thirds vary within a section, and then the fifths vary in every next chunk. And so you could see how certain patterns repeat and whatnot, because we are assigning sub-functions to notes based on interval category. So whether or not like a third, or whether or not a note exists between 250 cents and 450, then we call that a third, right? And so what functions are dependent on there existing a third will then exist in these little ranges. And so that's how like all this is kind of generated. So it is approaching things from an interval category lens. It's not approaching it from a just intonation lens where you're like, well, this is really spot on to this consonant interval and therefore it's going to resolve better. No, it's more like, does this individual note voice lead smoothly to this one by, around like a whole tone? Something like that.
Yeah, it's a range of like sense sizes, basically.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, that's the functional harmony thing, which is pretty cool.
Hey, before we leave that, can you click like one of any of the red ones that is, and then go to one of those random green ones that seems out of place? I just want to see if does it work. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Not the worst thing I've heard.
No, that one. I feel the thing is also my ears are cooked.
If you go to the ones up top, they'll probably sound really good, right?
Yeah,
they sound better.
So we do.
Yeah, that one's good. That one's good. Yeah.
And then if we do like this guy and this guy,
Oh,
yeah, that doesn't
that
work.
one was
No.
that
So
one's
yeah,
broken.
that's the result of a bug. But either way,
So
you're not supposed to use the 53 Edo one. This one's more so just to look at like a continuous spectrum. Um, yeah. Oh, I see. Delta Quartz left a comment. He said, for Pailiaq, is the stuff you perform live lately also microtonal? If so, have people approach you asking about microtones? Could they tell there's something harmonically different about my music? So, yes, most of the music I play live is microtonal. Not much of the music I have released is microtonal because I'm a perfectionist and I just have a massive, massive backlog of music that I'm working on. Um, but when I'm playing live shows, then I'm playing like oftentimes recent music that I've made, and most of that is microtonal. So I would say the last few like live shows I played, like well over half of it was just in like weird, funky tunings. And generally people don't really ask about the tuning in particular because all the music sounds kind of crazy to begin with, right? We got like crazy additive synthesis in harmonic notes and fart sounds everywhere and then some out of tune notes as well, and there's a whole cacophony of stuff coming at you that I feel like the notes sounding a little weird might not be immediately obvious, but also not that many people have trained ears. But I think basically the genre of music that I make lends really well to weird tunings. um yeah, yeah, you can ask questions whenever. um
um
Oh, Twitch is much smoother. Oh, that's cool. Cool. My question, when you first started producing, making dubstep, was it dubstep, or did you ever experience? I made bro step for the first. I made trap music and bro step briefly, and then I made more trap music, and then I discovered good music, and then stopped doing that. So, yeah, that was that journey. But yeah, basically the music I make, psychedelic trippy music, I think lends really well for weird tunings, and so it's the right audience to expose people to. So that's the goal. Convert everyone.
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, if we're so that's the functional harmony thing. Um I have actually another like kind of working theory of functional harmony, or at least dominant function or dominant chords revolving around tritones. And I think, and I feel pretty confident about this, I think any chord, any seventh chord that has a tritone within it, I think you could just treat as a dominant chord that leads to your tonic. It just has to be pivoted around like the tritone just always has to be pivoted such that the tritone occurs on your leading tone and your fourth in that region. And so any kind of weird seventh chord in that range, I think will end up resolving and having that same kind of voice leading pattern. And so that's something else that I want to explore for sure. Um, yeah,
So if you're in the key of C, if you have a B and an F in the chord, it'll resolve to a C. Is what you're saying?
yeah, basically. And so like if you want to limit it to seventh chords, then yeah, basically. And speaking of that, we can talk about another app thing I made. This one was pretty recent, and I'm really happy with it. I made a chord finder, and so the way that this works is you enter the intervals that you are interested in that you're going to treat. Technically, they're thirds, but you can enter any interval you want, and then it's going to list an exhaustive list of every combination of these intervals and what chords arise from them. So you can see if your first third is 5/4, right? You have your five. This is the sequence of steps stacked on top of each other. So 5/4 and then 6/5. That's your major chord, right? And wait, we can make this in just intonation, right? And so that's justly tuned. You can also make this play in whatever Edo you want. So we can make it in 41 right now. And so you can examine and find which chords you like. So if we have our bottom third is an ultra major third, right? 13/10, 450 cents. We can try to find which one of these is the most simple. So like 10 against 13 against 15 is simply ultra major third, and then the fifth complement of that, which is the ultra minor third, right? Any ultra major and ultra minor is going to create a perfect fifth. And that's going to be relatively consonant because it has a low harmonic complexity in a harmonic series. This is the 10th against the 13th against the 15th harmonic. You can also see here how out of tune all the notes are summed together. So it's going to be a combination of like which chords are going to have a low cent value in terms of error, and also how consonant or simple are the harmonic ratios that make it up.
That's how out of tune it is in 41, or
Yeah, in 41
Okay,
in particular.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we could go to 53, why not? And then we'll find that like here a major chord is only 1.48 cents off, and this is just the summed error of all the intervals in it, right? Are we? Yeah, we're
Interesting.
playing in an Edo. I can't even. It
Yep.
just starts to fizzle at the very end, but the initial downbeat of all the notes playing at the same time, they're all in phase, and so it sounds like one single note, and then it starts to disperse at the very end. It's kind
Interesting.
of cool.
That's cool.
And you can then save chords. So I have like saved chords over here because I was exploring 37 Edo, and I was like, which one of these am I interested in? And so I just like kind of clicked through and found chords of like somewhat simple harmonic series segments. Right, and then you can save them all here. There's also seventh chords. That one sounds fucking nuts.
Yeah, that was cool.
That one as well. This one's also pretty cool. It's a little bit more out of tune. You can see here it's a little bit more out of tune, a little bit more fuzzy, but it still sounds pretty crazy, I think. And then that one's kind of weird. And so you can save these chords here, and then, I don't know, analyze them or do what you want.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I find trying to map out just intonation chords and then see how they're tempered in Edos, it has made a lot click for me in terms of, I don't know, what the chords actually are. Like the like your sub minor chord, right, is a 6 against 7 against 9. And so we could just call a sub minor chord just any chord that approximates 6 against 7 against 9.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Delta Quartz said, looking back on my time since being into microtones, what were some of my favorite tunings over time since I started up to now? So in order, 17 was, I think, the first one that I made a song in that I liked. I love 17 still. I think it's very beginner friendly and also very deep and sounds cool. And then 7 Edo also. Shout out 7 because it's extremely easy to write in and still sounds good and is kind of like foundational and fundamental for scale theory and temperament theory in general. You're kind of comparing a lot of stuff to 7. And then I never really liked 19. I like 22 a lot. I've made a lot of music in 22. And
I can't believe it.
beyond that, I mean, I've tinkered and messed around in like 15 and 16 and 20 and 21. Those are more recent stuff, but 17 and 22 and 7, I think, are all really nice beginner-friendly tunings for sure. And then last year, I became fixated and obsessed with 23 Edo, and that's my favorite one by far, simply because it's a dual fifth tuning. You don't have a good perfect fifth whatsoever, but you have two really sharp and really flat fifths. And there's a lot of really, really fascinating like scale construction stuff that you can do in regards to how close 23 is to 24, and 24 is just 12 but a superset of it. So you can take any scale that exists in 12 or in 24, and then you can, what I like to call hobbling, where you cut one of the steps short and then you just cram it into 23 Edo. And so if you were to have like your major scale, it has like the same major scale step sizes as 24 Edo, but the very last step you can make an extra small leading tone. And the result is you have a scale where instead of it being a stack of fifths that creates the entire scale, like if you were to create a Lydian scale, it's a stack of alternating sharp and flat fifths, which creates this really kind of wonky, kind of out of tune feeling because it's not self-referential in consistency. and it sounds really neat. I don't know. Every other chord is going to be a chord with a sharp or a flat fifth, and there's like over 100 different possible variations of those types of scales, and that's just in regards to the diatonic scale and all of that nonsense. So 23 is really cool structurally because it sounds bad, but you can make any scale basically appear in it, but it's kind of like a wonky, messed up one, and I like the wonky, messed up stuff. And so, yeah, that's been how I approach most stuff lately this past year.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a long ramble.
No, that's good.
And then if you want to talk a little bit more, I have a couple other apps that are cool. I have an interval scent trainer. This one is fun. This is basically for just memorizing different scent values. And so you can like play this and I'll just ask you how many cents is each interval. This is 1072. Yeah. This one this is the neutral seventh, so it's 11049, so on and so forth. And so it keeps quizzing you. I actually found doing this to be really, really helpful for understanding and quickly intuiting stuff. Like, yes, you're memorizing a bunch of numbers, but you don't have to look up numbers when you're reading something. You could be reading someone talking about, I don't know, a just intonation scale, and you just see the numbers and immediately you're like, oh, that's a sub minor third. Oh, that's a neutral sixth or whatever. And building the pattern recognition, I think, is really useful for like quickly intuiting a lot of stuff. I think a lot of strength in most things comes from like speed and workflow and being able to navigate a thing quicker and not having to expend mental energy calculating stuff. It's like why I think workflow in music production is super important. Like learning to be really fast with sound design, creating sound design generation like racks, such that you're making a song, you put a single sound into it, and then it spits out a bunch of different other sounds. I think workflow and speed is just super, super fundamental. So I recommend messing around with this and trying to memorize a bunch of intervals. It's fun. It's fun. I've enjoyed it.
That's the interval scent trainer.
Yes.
That's what that's called. And I do have some links. I think I have that one linked in the video description. And then I think I have the functional harmony one as well. Yeah.
That spiky thing says, can multiples of 23 Ito also hobble? Yeah, because a multiple of 23 has 23 in it. But also, any scale can have hobbled scales of adjacent Itos. So 23 can have hobbled scales from 24. It can also have hobbled scales from 22. 25 can have hobbled scales from 24 and from 26. So, yeah. Do you have any common timbral tricks you do, like attenuating certain harmonics? So something I've had a lot of fun with, or a lot of success with, is pitch bends. So like using the pitch envelope such that the pitch envelope scoops up immediately, so it just has a little bit of a boop, like, and then it could stabilize for the rest of the note and have a long release or whatever. But I find having a little bit of a pitch bend in it can make you justify a lot of really weird tunings because it like tells the listener, hey, I'm pitch bending anyways, so who cares about the exact pitch or temperament or whatever. I find that to be super useful. I think it sounds fun. It sounds bubbly and weird. I like bubbly and weird stuff. Yeah, and then otherwise, just simple, like for weird tunings, just simple timbres, sine waves, just like a couple sine waves or whatever, just really low harmonic complexity, or make it bell-like or something in harmonic timbres, using FM synthesis with like a really short attack for the carrier or the modulator wave, and the modulator's out of tune such that it creates an inharmonic timbre to begin with, so it starts to sound kind of bell and gong-like and reminiscent of gamelan. I feel like you can, when the timbres are weird, you can get away with anything. And yeah, with Zen timbre, that's technically, I guess, what I'm talking about. I've not really experimented with it much. I think it's conceptually really interesting. I think it sounds bad, generally, when all of the sounds are of a Zen timbre. I've just yet to hear something personally that I found compelling made with the Zen timbres concept. But I'll be proven wrong, I'm sure. Like something, I don't know if you also experience this, Gordon, but I will hear a song that I don't like in like 19 Edo, and I'll just write off 19. I'll just like, okay, the whole tuning must suck then, which is really dumb. It's like hearing a bad song in a minor scale, and you're like, minor is terrible, But I definitely have that experience.
No, I'm almost like the opposite because like my attitude on tunings is like so personal because it's like if I have a hard time with it, I write it off, but I know somebody out there has done something cool with it. I just assume they either have or they will. Cause like
Yeah, that makes sense.
cause like 13 EDO, I really tried doing 13 EDO early on, and I hated it. I just couldn't stand it. And then I heard this song by Lime Boiler
Yeah, I know which one you're talking
called
about.
"How to Cut a Glock into 13 Pieces" or something like that, and I love that fucking song, man. It's like one of my favorite Zen things ever, and it's in 13, and I was like, I can't believe this is in 13. And so then I like went back to 13 and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this work, and I actually like using 13 now. So I think I personally I think you got to be open to it working to find what you like about it. And I usually just assume if other people are using it, there's probably something to it.
Yeah, I have very similar experiences. I'll usually find most of my interest in a tuning if I hear something compelling. So like I said in the beginning, I've like learned so much just by like osmosis and by being engaged in like your community. I became fascinated with 23 Ito because you were just noodling around with it for like 20 minutes once on the instrument, and I was like, that sounds fucking sick. And then that kind of sent me on a journey. Whereas otherwise, I had completely written it off just because I'll get number vibes, Like 19, that's an ugly number. But if you think about 19 as, oh, 19 is actually like the ninth prime number, then like my perspective on it totally changes. It's like some stupid, the shape of the number makes me think that it's just not cool. Like 31, lame. All the 30s I immediately think are lame just because the number 3 in the front is it's mid. I don't know what else to say. Like the 40s are more compelling, even though they're too big. But
I think
like
it's
who's
yeah,
gonna say their favorite number is 37? You know,
I think it's
no one.
good to be like I don't know if good is the right word, but I think it's helpful as a composer if you're opinionated because there's just too it's in microtones especially because it's like
Yeah,
there's too much. I mean, but it's true even outside of microtones. Like if you have a strong opinion, it's easy to like I don't know, just to figure out the next step, and
yeah.
like
That I agree. It's like a double-edged sword a little bit because you'll shut yourself off from really cool stuff, but
right.
you'll engage quicker and decide on what things you really want to focus on or work on, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, having that judgment because I don't know, like I feel like me personally, I'll sometimes I wonder if I just try too many things because it relates to that adage of like a jack of all trades is a master of none and all
right.
that.
Yeah, I find at least for like creative work and stuff, it's important to diversify the experimentation with focused torture, self-torture. So like like right now I'm going through a phase where I'm experimenting with making a bunch of these apps and trying to figure out like easier ways to compose in larger tunings, and I'm not making much music at all. Um, and sometimes I'm just twisting only knobs, just making sound design, and none of those sound design will ever be used in a song, but I'm just building experience. And then sometimes I'm just focusing on mixing and mastering. But I guess I go through phases of like broad experimentation where I accomplish nothing but like just learning phases. And
Sure.
then at some point it's been too long since I last released a thing, and then I'll torture myself brutally for a couple months and then make an EP or whatever, and then I go back to the experimentation thing. It's like my life cycle.
Yeah, I think we're kind of similar in that regard. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm curious about your live streaming. You've been live
Oh
streaming.
yeah.
How long have you been live streaming? And what got you into that?
Um.
Why'd you decide to start doing that?
Well, I have the YouTube channel. So I one night at like 2 in the morning just impulsively decided to record a sound design tutorial, and I posted it on YouTube. And then I didn't look at it for like 2 weeks. And then when I looked back, it had like blown up on the algorithm. It had like 3,000 views or something. I was like, what the fuck? And then it just continued to kind of blow up. And then I had a YouTube channel, and then I had an audience. I had like 200 followers on SoundCloud after 6 years of producing music, and then I just got lucky. Making music and building an audience is a luck game. It does not have to do with talent. It has to do it focused effort. Talent helps, and effort and working on promotion helps. But I'm just lucky. So, anyways, why did I start live streaming? So I had a YouTube channel, and I just felt like I've enjoyed watching other live streamers. So like the Whittler, he's an electronic music producer. He would live stream like once a week, and I found his community and his live streams to be super motivating and super helpful. Um, I'm on my computer all the time, anyways. I'm engaged with live streams and watching live streams all the time. Seems cool. There's the loose potential delusion of me being a wildly successful live streamer and living off of it, and so that's that's there. Um, and it also what I really found out, and I didn't quite know it when I started, but it would be extremely useful for productivity because once I start live streaming, I'm just gonna work for like 2 to 3 hours. I'm not gonna get
Yeah.
distracted. I'm gonna be focused, and I've done it to the point now where almost every time I produce music is when I'm live streaming, which is like a blessing and a curse because there's probably a lot of times where I normally would produce music when I wasn't live streaming, but like, it is what it is. But I found it to be useful for like, my musical career and building an audience, just because people will stumble into the live streams and learn stuff, building a community, being able to scratch the social itch so I can stay cooped up in my room and produce music all day, every day.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go outside to meet people. I can just talk to, text on a screen.
Right.
And yeah, no, I mean, it's been fun. It was pretty nerve-wracking for like the first like month I did it, but then eventually it just started I got comfortable with it and natural. A lot of my friends that I've like encouraged to like start live streaming as producers, they would do it like 2 times and they're just like, it's just anxiety inducing, and then they would give up. I'm like, no, you got to break through it, and then it's fun. You
Yeah.
also become a better speaker, I found. I would like to think I was more awkward generally before I started live streaming. So there's a benefit there.
Yeah. It hasn't helped me yet, but I'll get there.
It's encouraging. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean you're very. I feel like you're very good at it. You're a good host and very articulate. Do you get a lot of questions on your stream? Do you do a lot of tutoring on there, or is it
Yeah, I would say
more?
a good amount of the time. I don't know. Anyone asks a question on how I did a thing, and I'll probably just like decompose and explain how the entire song was built up from the ground up or whatever. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm blanking. I'm sleep deprived. I will continue to blame that every time. Um, yeah, I do a lot of teaching generally. So like my YouTube channel is essentially like, for the most part, like, while yes, I'm a musician and I want to post my music there and I want people to be listening to my music or whatever, it is mostly just producers that watch it, and they don't care about my music. They just want to know how I make the sounds. So what's the best way to get them to listen to my music? Make them listen to me making the music while live streaming. Um, so a lot of the time I'm just like teaching production techniques and explaining how I made the songs and all that stuff. Also giving feedback. I find giving feedback to be really useful as
Yeah.
it helps your own ear. You're giving back to the community. It helps them out. You're listening to mixes that were made with styles and techniques that you normally wouldn't use. So it trains your ear to like listen for other things. You're getting exposure to critical listening for other types of stuff. And so, yeah, giving feedback on live stream I've also found to be super, super helpful. And I would recommend other people engage more with giving feedback. Because, like, I'm sure you're all in a Discord that has a feedback channel, and you probably don't give feedback in it, and you should. So do that. It's good for you. It's good for them, and it's good for you. It's not just be selfish about it. You know, just think to yourself, this is actually making me better, and then you do the selfless act. Yeah.
I agree. They made us do that when I was studying piano in college. They made us critique
Oh.
each other.
Oh, that's brutal. Because like I feel like
It
I don't know. I feel like
it
it's more
was
personal.
fine.
You're like your fingers suck at playing that. Like I don't know.
No, it was good.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
and I really sucked at giving advice at first, but I don't know. It kind of like because our teacher made us do it. It kind of like I don't know. Once you start doing it, it's like you start to think about more things, and I think your
Yeah.
analysis gets more in depth, and you become more helpful. But
Yeah, definitely.
I think one, I think part of the reason your channel does so well is because you focus on like helping other people. Like you give people resources, and it's your tutorials are good and they've blown up. It's interesting stuff. Now you're developing these tools for microtonalists. You definitely have a habit of like I don't know, just providing resources for the larger
Yeah.
community of
I guess I
musicians.
care. I do care about pedagogy and teaching a good amount. Like most of my like inane arguments in the Zen Harmonic Alliance Discord is just over like what would be the best way to make things more accessible to other people. Because at the end of the day, I want more people to listen to this music. I want more people to make this music. I want to kill the stigma of like we have to make music and only a certain set tuning. Um, and I think a large way of doing that is just convincing and providing resources to other musicians, teaching other people, and convincing them this is worth exploring, it's worth doing, because then we can get another Sevish on our hands if one of them's really cracked. So we need more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Um, all right. I guess hey, it's already been like an hour. Does anyone have any more questions in chat for Pailiaq? While we're waiting on that, I also was. This is not really microtonal related, but your spiky thing says that flat for the 23 Edos feels like it could be used for blues inspired scales. Pailiaq, I'm wondering what your I think your most popular video is on panning.
Oh yeah. Yes.
That is
I guess
super interesting. How did you teach yourself that stuff and
So it's a funny story. I at one point got really obsessive about trying to learn how to do forwards and backwards panning, and like how do I make something sound like it's in front of me versus behind. And I went through a multi-day, multi-hour Wikipedia rabbit holes and made and figured out like psychoacoustic stuff, and made Max MSP devices for panning things around. And so I learned a whole bunch regarding all that. And I made a YouTube video explaining how to pan things around in space, only in the horizontal plane. Then I happened to get an interview at Dolby doing like Dolby Atmos psychoacoustic prototype software stuff. And the interview happened to be like a week after I made the video of me dissecting and explaining psychoacoustics. So I just fucking nailed the interview like
wow.
immediately because I just like been obsessing over the exact topic that they're going to question me on. And so then as a result, I learned way more about height panning through working there because you have to engage with how to virtualize objects coming from above you, like different how to make speakers, create wavefronts propagating from different directions and stuff, bouncing sound waves off of the ceiling, how that all interferes and works with the human pinna, how everyone's ear shape is different from each other and whatnot. So I learned a ton and was given a bunch of really cool resources, and I figured out like what are the proper things to like look up and research. And so then I went back, and that original rack that could pan really well in the, the horizontal plane, I figured out, okay, let's add a vertical direction as well. And then I made a video, and it popped off, and that was super cool. And that was like I would say that's where the bulk of my viewers found me from.
I think that's where I saw that video, like before you ever showed up in my stream. I recognized your name because I watched that video.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
That is super neat. Yeah, I hope someday the microtonal stuff will pop up in the same way or pop off, but
yeah,
that is perhaps a bigger ask. Who knows?
I mean, it's growing for sure.
Yeah, we just need a couple more like Maddie Ashmans and stuff to pop off, and I mean, it's happening more and more. Like, I feel like we're hearing about there was the like aliens from Quebec.
Yeah,
that everyone's losing their shit about.
And Jean de Poitrain or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, and then Maddie Ashman popped off pretty recently.
Yeah,
and I feel like there's a few others, but it's becoming more and more well known. Like, I would say the majority of musicians are aware that microtones exist.
Yeah,
I feel
everybody knows.
I feel like maybe 5 years ago, less of them knew. Like, the awareness of its existence is spreading.
Absolutely.
And like I said before, it takes a couple years of exposure to the thing, probably for a lot of people, before they decide to like dive into it. Like, I knew what microtones were for a few years before I really decided I wanted to learn it, because it took re-exposure for a while. So I think as we have more and more artists pop up, and its prevalence becomes more prevalent, then we might get more, more musicians, more people interested in it, more resources,
sure,
all of that.
And every year we get more resources. Like, we get like your videos and the web apps, and we get new software and this and that and the other.
Yep, we got more YouTubers. We got Levi McLean. He's been popping off a bit.
And
with like,
and all the synths now are adding microtonal functionality.
Yeah, this is true.
So,
like, the only real barrier, I think, is just MIDI having only 128 notes. Like, I think if we could just solve that issue, which, I mean, it doesn't really look like it's a solvable thing for the near future or long future. I don't know. That's not my wheelhouse. But if we can solve that, then, I mean, I feel like I could compose in anything. Like, if you can have infinite notes, I would be able to compose in 1,000 Ito, like, relatively easily, I think. Really.
No. Wow. Nice. 24 Ito spiky thing, that's right. It's not microtonal enough. And Jean de Poitrain or whatever.
Uses 12 SMH when we get into rank 59. Oh, 24. Yeah, I see. Yeah, because 24 is like normie core microtonal music, kinda. And again, it's the thing where it's like number vibes and elitism and gatekeeping a little bit. Like, I know there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do in 24. But I feel like if you get into this, then you're probably gonna be steered towards the weirder stuff. Probably.
You gotta go farther than 24, come on.
Yeah, you gotta go 23.
Yeah.
So much farther.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on the stream and chatting with us. Is there anything else you wanted to mention? Do you have any questions for Chad, or anything you want to plug? Or
Mr. Leaky, you were also incredible. I love that.
Thank you, Mr. Leaky.
And then 23 is closest we got so far. Yeah, 23 is the shit. I don't know. I have music. Listen to my music, please. That would be cool. I have a bunch of resources. If you like sample packs and sound design racks and you use Ableton, my YouTube channel I do a bunch of that. You can watch my live streams. I'm making sounds in there. I have a Patreon if you're interested in purchasing or having, like spatialized panning devices that can pan things above your head and whatnot, or other sound design racks and other tutorials. And I am working on an EP that'll probably come out. I don't know. I want to say a month and a half, but I'm me, so it's probably gonna be like 5 months. But that is in the works. So there's music coming out eventually. Yes.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, hey, I think
All right.
I think we're about done. What do you think?
Okay. Pretty good.
Nice. Okay. Well, do you want to go, or do you want to wait and hear the next guest first?
I'll hear the next guest. I'm curious.
All right, guys. Delta says, thanks for answering our questions for the great interview. Thank you, everybody, for asking Pailiaq questions. I'm surprised there weren't more questions, honestly. It seemed kind of question light tonight, but I guess you answered everyone's
Answered every question.
inquiries
Exactly.
ahead of time. You're very thorough. Okay. All right. 2 weeks from today, drum roll, please, everyone. We are going to be chatting with. Sorry about my dog in the background. I don't know if y'all heard her coughing. We're going to be excuse me, Waffle. 1 moment, please. We will be chatting. All right, I think she's giving us a moment. With the one and only Stephen Weigel.
Oh shit!
On at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 2 weeks from today.
My reaction was what everyone in the chat did simultaneously. I'm sure. Just imagine a chorus of people yelling at the same time for Steven.
Very exciting stuff. I'm very excited. Very cool. I look up to Steven, and I've listened to every Now and Zen episode. So these interviews are, in a way, an homage to Steven. All right.
That's awesome. Yep, very excited for that. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I've been really enjoying the interviews and very happy to participate and talk about tiny notes. And it's all I think about lately. So being able to talk about it with my voice, it's kind of surreal. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey man, come back sometime. Maybe when when the EP comes out or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Set that up.
We'll do.
But all right, man.
I'll see
what are you about to do?
Probably in the chat in like 20 minutes.
Oh, right on. Cool.
Yeah. All right, see ya.
Later. All right, everybody. That was Pailiaq. Cool. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty chill. Thanks again, Pailiaq, for chatting with us. Thanks, guys. How's everybody doing? All right, I'll put on some music from Pailiaq. I'm gonna go take 5 and switch over to some Lumitone. Good interview. Thank you, Zeno. So I believe Quark Soup is a microtonal EP, or at least 1 or 2 of the songs is microtonal. Anyway, it's good stuff. I'm going to put this on. I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to play some Lumitone. I'm just going to free my dog and get stuff set up. So I'll be right back.